So it's been 1 year since the Butler, Pennsylvania incident. Hey, Donald, where the hell are your medical files? Prove what went down. Release your medical files. I know Donald Trump says, I was hit in the lobe. That's what went down. But is this going to be another Epstein-like cover-up? What is going on? Now, Donald Trump on his own, when he went to the Kerr County area in Texas on Friday, and he held that disastrous press conference where he was supposed to be addressing the flash floods, you know what he brought up on his own? He brought up himself, and he talked about his ear, and he said he got shot in his ear and how God saved him. He had to make it about himself. And as we approach the 1 year, Donald, if you want to make it about yourself, let's not forget another potential Epstein-like cover-up here, because let's just take a look at some of the medical information that you did release, just so everybody remembers. Remember back in April when Donald Trump said he was releasing the physical? Well, it says that you weighed 224 pounds and that you were 75 inches tall, both which I think are false. Then when you go into the summary of it, it says that Donald Trump is an excellent help as exhibited by his frequent victories at golf events. What in the Kim Jong-un? That's not a medical report. That is Kim Jong-un propaganda. Can we zoom in on Donald Trump's hand for a second? As our editor-in-chief Ron Filipkowski says, the same people who can't stop talking about Biden's health won't ask Trump why this keeps happening. Zoom in right there. And Donald Trump, by the way, I'm going to bring out some records. I'm going to bring out receipts right now, but I want to start by showing you this. When Donald Trump during a speech said that Ronnie Jackson, the guy who now writes Donald Trump's reports, and I put that in quotes, he was the doctor for Obama, Bush, and Trump, and he said that Donald was healthier than Obama. Remember he said this? Here, play this clip.
The press, the fake news media said, who is the most? He was the doctor for Obama, Bush, and Trump. That's pretty good, right? White House doctor for the three of us. He said, the press, who is the healthiest of the three? He said, definitely it's Donald Trump. There's not even a contest. And I love that guy. When he said that, JD, when he said that, I said, I like this guy. So then he said, sir, he was leaving the White House. He said, I'd love to run for Congress. And he ran against 28 people. They were all running for the Republican primary, because whoever won that primary is going to win. I think it's a Trump plus 48. Whoever wins gets 48 point start. And not only did he win, he won easily. And now he's one of the most popular people in Congress and one of the most talented, maybe more importantly. Ronnie Jackson. Ronnie.
Right. Let's now take a look at Obama and let's take a look at Donald Trump. Seriously? I mean, that's actually what we are going with right there. Or how about here, when Donald Trump was giving a speech and he shouted out with Ronnie Jackson and goes, who was the healthiest patient you ever had? And he goes, Trump. Here, play this clip.
Who is the healthiest patient you ever had? You know why I liked him? The fake news asked, so doctor, he had Obama, Bush, and Trump in the White House. He was the White House doctor. And they asked him, who's the healthiest of the three? He said, it's not close. It's Donald Trump. And from that moment, I love this guy. Right? Thank you, Ronnie.
Well, one of the things I remember back on September 1st of 2020 was when one of Donald Trump's physicians, Dr. Connolly, said that, and at this time, there was no one who formally accused Donald Trump of having mini strokes per se. But Donald Trump denied that he had a series of mini strokes when he kind of secretly went to the hospital, when he went to Walter Reed, and no one knew why he was going to Walter Reed. So you had Dr. Connolly back on September 1, 2020, say the following. Donald Trump has asked that I, Dr. Sean Connolly, physician to the president, address the recent public comments regarding his health. I can confirm that President Trump has not experienced nor been evaluated for a cerebrovascular accident, stroke, transient ischemic attack, mini stroke, or any acute cardiovascular emergencies, as have been incorrectly reported in the media. The president remains healthy, and I have no concerns about his ability to maintain the rigorous schedule ahead of him, as stated in my last report. I expect him to remain fit to execute the duties of the president. But let me ask everybody, does Donald Trump have a history of forging documents, committing fraud, being a felon, being a sexual abuser, being a bankrupter, being an overall awful human being? Ding, ding, ding. The answer is yes. So throughout Donald Trump's history, he's fabricated medical reports the same way he fabricates valuations and he fabricates numbers. He just makes it all up. Remember back in 2017, 2018, when Donald Trump was busted for his fraudulent medical report that he had Dr. Harold Bornstein, who mysteriously passed away, I think in 2021. He prepared this report for Donald Trump on December 4th, 2015, which said, if elected, Mr. Trump, I can state unequivocally, will be the healthiest individual ever elected to the presidency. And the letter started off, to whom my concern, to whom my concern. All of the typos, take a look at this letter, folks, with the typos. Doesn't this look like one of the disaster tariff letters that he's been sending to countries like Brazil and Canada this past week? Yeah, because he's writing this stuff. And by the way, I'm not being conspiratorial. Dr. Harold Bornstein, back on May 2nd, 2018, he told CNN that Trump dictated the letter that I just showed you. Here, play this clip.
We ran into Dr. Harold Bornstein right outside his office on Park Avenue, and he told us in no uncertain terms, and this is the quote, Aaron, he being Trump, he dictated that whole letter. I didn't write that letter, meaning that Trump dictated what he wanted to go into it, and essentially Bornstein wrote it up. He did say, he compared it to the movie Fargo, and he said it takes the truth and moves it in a different direction. Think about that. Now, Bornstein tells us that he was in a car with his wife when he was on the phone with then candidate Trump in December of 2015. And she was going through with Trump what he could say and what he couldn't say. Trump was dictating what he wanted in that letter. And Bornstein was saying, okay, you can say that, you can't say that. He then came here to the office. He wrote it up. Trump's office later picked it up. He said around 4 p.m. Aaron, we have reached out to the White House, but we have not gotten a response.
All right, so that's pretty incredible in and of itself. You also now, Alex, Bornstein is saying he was, quote unquote, robbed of the president's medical files. He spoke to you particularly about this encounter. What did he tell you?
Right. So he is saying this is a raid. Bornstein is saying that he was robbed. I specifically asked him, was a crime committed? He said they stole them, referring to the president's medical files. The they in that sentence are two men under the president's employ. The first, as you mentioned, is Keith Schiller, who was the president's longtime bodyguard here in New York. He then moved down to Washington with the president, worked in the White House as the head of Oval Office operations. The other person we understand is Alan Garten, who is an attorney for the Trump Organization. Now, Aaron, normally when you have medical records released, you need what's called a HIPAA released. We understand from Bornstein, he told us this afternoon, that was not signed. Instead, he says these two men barged through the back door, terrified the secretary, pushed aside the patient who was in there. Now, the White House is not contesting that they took possession of these medical files, but they are saying that it was not a raid. Instead, Aaron, they're saying that this was just standard operating procedure.
Now, Harold Bornstein then, right around that same period, said that his office was raided by Trump thugs, who then took Trump's medical records out of the office. Here, play this clip.
What were they looking for?
All his medical records, his pictures, anything they could find. We must have been here for 25 to 30 minutes. We created a lot of chaos. I couldn't believe anybody was making a big deal about a drug that's to grow his hair, which seemed to be so important. And it certainly is not a breach of medical trust to tell somebody they take Propecia to grow their hair. What's the matter with that?
Now, I give you all of that as background because as we now approach the anniversary of the Butler incident 1 year ago today, seems like a much longer time ago, but it's 1 year ago today, we have no credible medical reports about it. And that's something that we deserve. That's something that we should absolutely have. We do have this. Ronnie Jackson wrote the following, which Trump probably was involved in writing, from July 26, 2024. As the former physician to the president for Donald Trump, I have continued to monitor his health and well-being, along with his primary care physician, since the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, on the evening of July 13th. The would-be assassin fired multiple rounds from a relatively close distance, using a high-profile rifle, with one bullet striking the former president and now the Republican nominee for president in his right ear. I have reviewed Trump's medical records from Butler Memorial Hospital, where he was initially evaluated and treated for gunshot wound to the right ear. When gunshot hits you in the right ear from a weapon like that, it would explode your ear. It doesn't just give you a little scratchies. It explodes your ear and it explodes your face. Having served as an emergency medical physician for over 20 years in the United States Navy, including a combat physician on the battlefield in Iraq, I have treated many gunshot wounds in my career. Based on my direct observation of the injury, my relative clinical background, and my significant experience evaluating and treating patients with similar wounds, I completely concur with the initial assessment and treatment provided by the doctors and nurses at Butler Memorial Hospital on the day of the shooting. Then it goes on to say, okay, but my point is, can we please see the underlying report for Butler? That would be nice. So on Friday, here's how Donald Trump made it about himself in Texas, where 120 people died, 100 people are missing. The death count's almost certainly going to be above 200 when all is said and done. Donald Trump said, God saved me, God saved me. Here, play this clip.
And there was, people screaming, get down, get down. It was the whole thing was just crazy. And it's hard to believe a year is up. And here we are. And a lot of things have happened since then, including the presidency. So, I have an obligation to do a good job, I feel, because I was really saved. I was really saved by somebody very special. People that are shooters, I'm not so much of a shooter, but people that were shooters say it's almost impossible that was a miss. I mean, it was a hit, but it was a miss. Although I do get that throbbing feeling every once in a while.
Is that right?
Yeah, a little bit. No, I owe a lot. And I hope the reason I was saved was to save our country. We had a country that was, I don't say dead because it's too strong, but we had a country that was really very close to being finished, in my opinion. And now we have the hottest country in the world. That's why I'm so saddened by this. But it's one of those things, those tragic things that happen.
Okay, well, again, let's explore that a little more. Back on August of 2024, Trump was very evasive and said that it hit him in the lobe. Here, play this clip.
Pretty much recovered, yeah. I'm a fast healer. It's a hell of a shot, but I'm a fast healer. Yeah, pretty much recovered. Do you have any hearing damage? No, it didn't hit that. I got very lucky. It just hit the lobe, as they call it. Is there a scar on your ear? Yeah, a little bit, not much. On top.
Remember when Donald Trump went on Joe Rogan, and here's what he said. Here, play this clip right there.
He was a nice once guy. They shot you, I was like, he's got to come in here. It's all about timing. It's all about the timing. I think our timing's perfect. Do you even have a scar on your ear? You got anything on there?
I do.
Let me see. What do you got there?
Right over here.
Oh, it's a tiny little mark.
It zicked right there.
Yeah. It healed up pretty fucking good.
Well, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's not like some of the wrestlers, some of the UFC fighters.
No, you didn't get cauliflower.
No. It was sort of like a top shot. Mm-hmm. The point of the bullet was a little of the ass, but you see the thing's taken off a little bit. But it makes me a tougher guy. The fighters.
Now, again, let's go back to the 2019 period where Trump makes an unannounced visit to Walter Reed Medical Center in 2019, which some medical experts suggested could be a mini stroke. This is Dr. David Shiner, a world-renowned doctor, especially in these areas. Here's what he had to say. Play this clip.
His inability to say words sometimes worries me tremendously. He is having trouble word finding when he said United States instead of United States. These aren't words. These aren't slips of the tongue. These are words he can't find them. And this is happening over and over again. Comedians joke about it, but it's not a joking matter. I think there is a neurological issue that is not being addressed. And if he had an MRI of his head over there, I would be very pleased because I think he needs it.
Is that something that could have happened in the 2-hour time he was there?
Yes, it certainly could. And it's the worry that I have is that maybe he's having small strokes. And, we had that once before in the White House when Woodrow Wilson was president. His inability to find words is peculiar and has not been explained. And I think one has to think of it as a possible neurological issue.
And again, if you've been looking at Donald Trump's appearances lately, it does look like that. I don't know this for a fact. I'm just saying it looks like he's wearing a Foley catheter, tube inserted inside the bladder to drain urine into a bag strapped to his leg. Again, I don't know that for a fact, but I think we'd have to, you just look at his pant legs. You can kind of see it sticking out. And then again, going back to September 1st, 2020, here is what Ronnie Jackson had to say back then. Let's play it.
There was an incident recently where the president appeared to slur his words while giving an address. Did you look into what the cause of that might have been at all?
I did. Yeah, we talked about that, and actually one of my ENT consultants was involved in that. We evaluated him. We checked everything out, and everything was normal. We even went so far as to do an ultrasound of his parotid glands and a few other things, and there was absolutely no clinical findings.
And as you may know as well, Ronnie Jackson was the co-plaintiff with Donald Trump in the lawsuit that was filed against Paramount, the parent company of CBS, for emotional distress based on former Vice President Kamala Harris's interview with 60 Minutes. And Donald Trump said, it was worth $20-40 billion because it caused him all this distress to see Kamala Harris. And then he got Paramount to settle as a precondition for a merger between Paramount and Skydance. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.